They were said to guard ancient relics. They were accused of worshipping demons. They vanished in fire and rose in legend. But beyond the myths, beyond Hollywood, the conspiracy, the fantasies, there was a brotherhood of silence, of sword, of sacred vow. This is the truth behind the Knights Templar, and what they left behind was more dangerous than any treasure. Origins of the Oath. The year was 1119. The First Crusade had left a shattered Jerusalem in Christian hands. Pilgrims, thousands of them, were returning to walk the steps of Christ. But the journey was perilous. Bandits prowled the roads. Saracen raiders stalked the trails. To reach the holy city was to risk death. In response, 9 knights of noble blood made a quiet pact. They renounced wealth, renounced comfort, and swore to protect pilgrims, not with prayer, but with steel. They lived in ruins of Solomon temples. They called themselves the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. The Knights Templar, poor in gold, rich in faith, feared by enemies, trusted by God. They weren't many, but they were blessed. Pope Honorius gave them holy sanction. Bernard of Clairvaux gave them a rule. And soon, the Templars weren't just guardians. They were becoming something far more powerful. The rise of a sacred machine. Templars spread like wildfire. From the Iberian Peninsula to the walls of Antioch, they built fortresses on every fault line between Christendom and the Islamic world. Their commanderies dotted the map, over 870 properties by the mid-13th century. And with those castles came commerce. They created a financial system so advanced it rivaled royal treasuries. A merchant could deposit gold in Paris and withdraw it in the Levant. Their ledgers were encrypted, their vaults secure. They were monks, but they were also medieval bankers. They wore white for purity, red for martyrdom. And when they trained, it wasn't in isolation, it was in formation. They trained for war, and they trained for God. When kings grow jealous. In every kingdom, power attracts enemies. And by the 1300s, the Crusades were fading. Jerusalem had fallen again. Christian strongholds in the east were lost. The Templars, once saviors, were now seen as relics. King Philip IV of France was drowning in debt, and the Templars were his creditors. He couldn't beat them in battle, so he chose a different weapon: accusations. October 13, 1307, a day that would curse the calendar. Friday the 13th. Templars across France were seized, accused of heresy, confessions, torn from flesh under flame and iron. They were said to worship Baphomet, to kiss idols, to deny Christ. Lies, but effective. The order fell, but its spirit endured. Not in scrolls, not in treasures, but in the unspoken oath. This here's the Armor Kingdom Knight's Vow mug, crafted not to impress, but to honor. You raise this mug to drink. You raise it to remember. Raise it with honor. Drink to remember the Knight's Vow. Myth, secrets, and shadows. When the last Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, burned in 1314, he called down a curse upon the king and the pope. Both died within a year. After the flames, the silence grew. Some say Templars fled to Scotland. Others say they carried the Holy Grail, that they became the Freemasons, that their symbols still mark modern money, modern power. There is no proof, but where history ends, legends begin. And the Templars, they mastered both. The legacy of the sword bearers. They changed the world, not by ruling it, but by shaping what ruled it. Discipline, devotions. They were more than knights. They were a movement. The order died, but the vow, it lives on. In every military brotherhood, in every creed sworn in silence, every resistance that fights not for gold, but for something greater. They were forged in war, blessed by faith, undone by fear. The kings ruled from thrones, but the Templars ruled from shadows, and history still walks in their silence.